Good morning. It's time for the Naples Money Managers NMM News You Can Use. It's April 20th, 2020. We made it through another week, everyone. So here we are, just the three of us today. It's going to be Marcus, John, and I. We've given Dennis a little time off, give him a little rest. His birthday was the 14th, so he has to have a little something for that. Well, I'm going to start today with two different things. One was a question we had from last week's BPod, and then just a little comment about how people are trying to live. In the past, a lot of people try to live off of the growth of their portfolios. As you can see, that's not going to work very well. And when you're pulling out assets during a down market, it makes it more and more difficult. So we have to find different ways to create the income you need. And that led us to the next question, which was someone who said, gee, I understand how great the calls work and how covered calls work and how you can create more income, and they love our double income program, but what about my annuities? And this happens to be someone that we know we know the annuity very, very well, because in fact, I have the same annuity right here. And she wondered about, well, how is that guaranteed? We try to remind everyone that the guarantees in the particular annuities that we recommend, which there are only about 2 of them, but there are a few scattered other annuities out there. The guarantee is a lifetime guarantee. It steps up automatically each year. And that step up value each year is the value by which you take your income, not the market value, unless the market value is higher, of course. When you start taking income from that highest stepped up value, it lasts for the rest of your life. So if you're trying to secure your rent, or you're trying to secure your continued care facility fees, whatever it might be, this is a great way to give you peace of mind and know that you're going to have the income no matter what happens to the rest of your portfolio. And in the meantime, they can still be managed, and whatever's left does still go to your heirs. So with that, I'm going to now turn it over to John. He's got a little something that he wants to share with you today about the S&P 500. Come on, John.
Okay, good morning. If I were to ask, do you know what the Dow Jones Industrial Average is? You would obviously say yes. It's 30 stocks. It's a group of stocks that we follow their value, their pricing, and we kind of gauge the market. It goes down, we get upset. It goes up, we're elated. And we follow the Dow, and we have been following the Dow for a long time. Just as a tidbit, do you know when the Dow was founded, when they put 14 stocks together originally? It was 1885. So this index or group of stocks has been around for a long time and now consists of 30 multinational companies. The interesting thing is they just put Apple into this Dow 5 years ago. So it shows you how things change. The importance of another index or group of stocks, about 500, is the Standard & Poor's 500. Now we mention that because that's so crucial to the way the Naples Money Managers manages our portfolio as kind of a foundation to look at to check ourselves against different industries. Let me tell you a little bit about this S&P 500. It was founded a year after I was born in 1957. It has a little over 500 stocks today. If you were to go back to 1957, there's about 85 that endured that some 60 years. The majority of them either went bankrupt, were taken over, or because there's exact parameters to be listed on in the S&P, many are gone. The crucial point for the Naples Money Managers is we look at this S&P 500 because it's a living template, if you will, for the markets. It's divided up into 11 groups. In the industry, we call them sectors. We have consumer discretionary, healthcare, financials, energy, utilities, and so on. So what we can do every day is we can look at these sectors, and we do this in the investment committee meeting, which we ought to talk about in a future issue here. We look at how it is performing, and then we can match that to the fundamentals of how we first look at our portfolio before we add the options overlay. So it serves as a template. We like to match as much as we can stocks from these sectors. Many of these sectors, for instance, the consumer discretionary sector, which would be cars, retail shopping, etc. There's 11 sub-industries in that sector, so it becomes a little bit more complex. But the S&P 500 serves a portfolio manager like the Naples Money Managers in the way that we can look at it and compare our portfolio to see if we're in sync with growth. That's how we use it.
So if we had 3% in the tech sector and the S&P 500 had 7% in the tech sector, we would increase our tech sector exposure by adding a tech stock of some sort.
Now you notice that Dawn mentioned the tech sector, and in her case where she said we would add, she's absolutely right, because it's the top performing sector, right? So if you were in the energy sector, I don't believe we have anything in the energy sector currently, we're not going to add just because it's vacant in our portfolio. But as Don's question was, we would definitely add to the tech sector.
That's great. Thank you, John. Now it's time for Marcus to come and join us.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. So I want to kind of bounce off of what John was talking about and talking about a sector in particular, the energy sector, specifically oil. Now, oil is in the news today because it has dropped to record lows, to the lowest point since 1998, which incidentally was when I got my driver's license. So that's a particularly interesting date for me because I remember the first time I filled up gas. It was $1.15. So we're going to see if it's going to test those lows. Dennis seems to think it will. But how does this kind of affect the economy? Well, for one, a lot of the big American oil producers are going to be hurt by this a little bit. A lot of them have oil that is only viable at $60, $70 a barrel. It's currently trading at 11, so they're taking a loss on every barrel they sell. It's going to get to the point that they might have to close up some of those wells in order to cut production, because the reason things have fallen as low as they are is because there's no place to put it. They're running out of room. The amount of demand is not keeping up with what they're pumping out of the ground, so people aren't driving, things aren't being shipped to the same capacity, planes aren't flying, so they're just building up these huge stockpiles, and they're worried about they're not going to have any place to put it. But who would kind of benefit from this in the long term? Well, the auto industries. Cheaper gas typically translates into people buying a more expensive car. When gas is expensive, people will buy, a good fuel-efficient vehicle. Makes sense. Now, gas is $1. They might buy that 15-mile a gallon, hot rod because it makes sense to them economically. But that might not translate across the board. An auto like Tesla, an electric vehicle, so they're probably not going to see a lot of benefit from that. They're not worried about miles per gallon, and electricity is already cheap. So that is one of the give and take we see between sectors when they really sell off like this. Now, my next point that I wanted to bring up is something about our portfolios as a whole. Now, last Friday was a really important date for us. It's the third Friday of every month, which is when our options expire or get called away. Now, because we do the covered calls, things will be periodically called away from us. Last Friday, we actually had several positions called away from us, which is a really good thing. Market was up on Friday. If you look at the market today, we're down. So what that means is we generated cash on Friday when those options were exercised, and we're now going to be able to go in and buy positions at a lower point than they were with that cash. One of the ones being Gilead. We actually owned that last Friday. We had our cost basis of 80. They took it away from it at 80. We had $4 premium. It's now trading below that. We're going to go in and buy it at a lower amount, make more money going back up. And that's kind of how the strategy functions.
So the nice thing is the options, they pull us out of the market when it's going up, when we might want to stay and be a little greedy.
Absolutely.
So it kind of forces you out, and then it gives you typically you're going to find an opportunity to get into something else at a lower price.
Absolutely. And Don has always said that. The options force you out when you might want to stay in, and they push you back in when you might not want to be. And that's the real discipline there.
Thank you, Marcus.
You're welcome. All of you have a great day.
One of these days we'll all be sitting together again. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm going to close out today's segment with just a couple of notes. One thing I wanted to talk to you about was the Salvation Army. We've tried to promote a few different charities around that are out there and need help. Salvation Army is on the front lines. I guess that's why they call them the Salvation Army. They're out there getting people rent, getting people food, all the things that they need. This month isn't too bad because a lot of people got their $1,200 per person or $500 per child, and that'll help, help them get through this month. But next month, they're really going to need some help. You can even buy Publix gift cards and bring them. So call this number, call 210-4013, 210-4013. Ask for Martin, or he'll call you right back. I know he will. And you can talk to him about the best way for you to make a contribution where you know your dollars are going to families who really, really, really need it. And then I would like to ask you to do one other thing, and that is, if you like what we're doing here on Monday mornings and you're willing to put it out on your own social media, that would be great. We'd really appreciate that. And until next Monday morning, this is Money Matters. Most of all, most importantly, you matter.